ViCAP,
an extortion case.
ViCAP.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Listen to Pavarotti.
Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And now that we have things moving, we have a lot of people talking about the case, a lot of people with a lot of theories. I always like to point out what I always call the totality of things that we look at in this investigation. Now, along the way, I have contemplated a lot of things, put forth a lot of theories about specific subjects. Sometimes I have proven to be right. Sometimes I've been proven to be wrong. And as more information comes out, we always take the new information and then adjust based on that, decide what we're right about, what we're wrong about, and then go down the other path or continue on the path we're on. One thing that I've never seen, though, in all of the investigating that I've done in this case is anything that would tell me that I'm wrong about the circumstances that caused this atrocity. And I've laid those out for years now. And everything that I see that continues to come out, every new conversation that I hear, every new piece of documents that are unsealed, only strengthens my thoughts around that. And I'll share that with you in this one because I know that right now it's very popular out there for people to believe in one of four theories. And those are pretty cut and dry. One would be the frats and the sororities, friends of the victims, right? And we could include the ex-boyfriend into that. The other one would be a lone perp Ted Bundy type, where they think Kohberger's guilty of the crime. Most of the guilters out there agree with that scenario, even though all the physical evidence from the crime shows many different weapons were used, and it's impossible for one person to do it all in that time period, which blows my mind how people could think the Ted Bundy thing's even plausible. Another popular theory is that law enforcement themselves was involved in this thing. And I'm not here to say any of those theories are not correct. I'm just here to tell you what my investigation into this case has led me to believe, has for a long time, and continues to believe to this day. And this was a retribution hit by criminal organizations, right? Specifically, those Aryan type that actually operate inside and outside of prison and were operating during the time of this crime. And people either were talking or they perceived people were talking and they sent a message. This is a retribution message hit. It's what I've always believed, and I've never seen anything to dissuade me from that. And as I lay out more evidence for that, because we start to hear new things in this case. Until the documents were released here 2 weeks ago, never once had I heard ViCAP mentioned in this entire case in all these years. The first time I heard it mentioned is when I was reading one of the defense expert reports. And what's interesting is it was a report related to injuries on the victims. And they referred to a ViCAP document that they didn't know much about. And that was just a vague reference to it. It's the first time we heard it. But then we start hearing in these interviews, people like Cy Ray bringing up ViCAP over and over, not for injuries on victims, but for other circumstances. And then when we look into the origins of ViCAP, what we find is it started as an offshoot of the FBI's response team, their critical response team, which was an offshoot of their hostage team. Basically, it was the team, it's an offshoot of the teams that, were involved in things like Ruby Ridge and Waco. And then when we listen to Christopher Whitcomb in his interviews, he clearly lays out that that was his part in this thing. Way back in the day, he helped actually start ViCAP. And I'll let you hear that here in just a minute. So when I think of all the things in conjunction, right? Now I believe that Whitcomb is a willing participant in trying to get Kohberger a new trial. However, there's got to be things that's in it for themselves as well. So when I hear Whitcomb talk about specific things around the crime scene, as well as reasons why, he would want to be involved in exonerating Brian Koberger possibly, well, I think back to other things that he said regarding, for example, why this case was an actual extortion case for the FBI when it's listed in the documents and things like that. So, what I want to do in this video is, after all the research that I've put together on ViCAP and how it would apply to this situation, is I just want to share some of that research with you so you can understand for yourself how the ViCAP situation plays into this thing. So without further ado, hold on to your hats, folks. Let's talk a little bit about ViCAP and what people are now saying that we never heard before in this case.
But you have a behavioral aspect in every crime, too. So that's why we have the National Center for the Analysis of Violent Crime within a Critical Incident Response Group and a Behavioral Analysis Unit. Now there's numerous of them. And I worked there for a long time, the years after I was at the hostage rescue team, okay? All they do is look at the crime scene from a behavioralist standpoint. What does the crime scene show? And I worked there for a long time, the years after I was at the hostage rescue team. Okay?
ViCAP, Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, is an FBI program established by the Department of Justice in 1985 that operates as a nationwide repository and analytical tool for specific categories of violent crimes. It sits within the National Center for the Analysis of Violent Crime, NCAVC, part of the FBI's Critical Incident Response Group,
Critical Incident Response Group,
CRG. Its core mission is to maintain the ViCAP National Crime Database, the only nationwide investigative repository of this type that enables cross-jurisdictional matching of significant violent crimes. Provide crime analysis support to local, state, tribal, and federal law enforcement.
And I'm really curious to some of the background there, but one thing that I've always said is missing, and it's really bothered me. Has anybody ever approached you guys on what's called ViCAP? Have you ever heard that word ViCAP? Or it's basically a history of the victims.
Drug trafficking organizations, DTOs, frequently use violence to enforce debts, collect taxes or protection payments, control territory or distribution networks, eliminate competitors or informants, and maintain internal discipline. When those activities produce deaths, disappearances, or related qualifying violence, the resulting cases become eligible for ViCAP.
I'm going to go a little bit off script here too, and I could be wrong. And this is where I was asking about the ViCAP report and all the questions to family and friends, which I can't find any reporting being done.
Never happened.
Upon request or through proactive review, ViCAP analysts can generate reports highlighting potential linkages, investigative suggestions, or direct points of contact with other agencies holding similar cases. This is particularly useful for multi-jurisdictional DTO violence, where local agencies may not initially recognize connections to a broader pattern of enforcement killings or debt-related homicides.
Murder is not typically a federal crime. The FBI works violations of federal crime. Murder is only FBI jurisdiction under certain circumstances. It has to occur on a government reservation or something like that. The FBI worked this crime from a couple different categories. Actually, the file was titled in Pennsylvania as a 9A matter, which is an extortion case.
In practice, for investigations involving repeated or multi-victim violence used by drug trafficking groups to enforce extortion, ViCAP functions as a specialized cross-jurisdictional linkage and analysis resource. Agencies submit the qualifying homicide, missing person, or unidentified remains details. The system and analysts look for patterns that can connect cases, generate leads, and enable coordinated multi-agency work. Case ownership stays with the submitting agencies. Effectiveness depends on the completeness and quality of the data entered by participating law enforcement.
Actually, the file was titled in Pennsylvania as a 9A matter, which is an extortion case.
When extortion is enforced or accompanied by violence that meets the criteria, such as murders to eliminate witnesses, enforce compliance, settle debts, or maintain control within a trafficking or organized group, The resulting homicides or related assaults can be entered. In group or network contexts, repeated acts of violence used to support extortionate control can produce series or patterned cases that ViCAP is designed to link across jurisdictions. Behavioral and MO analysis can help identify whether violent acts attributed to different incidents share signatures consistent with the same offenders or enterprise, supporting broader investigative coordination.
An extortion case.
Extortion-related violence by the same group or network often shows behavioral consistency.
ViCAP.
ViCAP matching and analyst review can surface connections between seemingly separate homicides or related assaults across city, county, or state lines. This supports identification of a continuing series attributable to the same offenders or enterprise and helps agencies coordinate without each independently rediscovering the links. Murders committed to enforce extortionate demands, e.g., unpaid drug debts, failure to pay a peso or tax, refusal to cooperate with a group's collection efforts, or to eliminate threats to the organization, can be entered if they meet the homicide criteria, series, random, motiveless appearance, or other qualifying factors. When bodies appear in different jurisdictions, common with mobile DTO operations or dumped remains, agencies enter the cases so the system and analysts can compare MO details, weapon type, staging, victim selection, vehicle descriptions. In short, for investigations involving multiple deaths tied to trafficking networks or violence accompanying extortionate activity, ViCAP functions as a specialized national clearinghouse and analytical support mechanism. It allows agencies to submit qualifying violent crime details, detect potential cross-jurisdictional or serial patterns through automated comparison plus human analysis, and coordinate more effectively, precisely the purpose for which it was created.
So when I think about those possible suspects and the suspect pools of people we should be looking into, and then I apply things like what we just discussed with ViCAP, and I apply it to that suspect pool, and would ViCAP in relation to extortion, would that really lean towards frats and sororities? I don't think so. Would it lead towards a one-off Ted Bundy? In my humble opinion, in no possible way. Would it lead towards law enforcement in general? I mean, it's very possible that it could. But I think the most likely area that it leads to is what we've talked about this entire time. And the reason I hit it so hard is because even after all the investigating, all of the videos that I've done explaining everything that I found, it still seems to me that to this day, I'm the only one that goes down this path. All those other paths are explored by so many people out there, it's unreal. But for some reason, I'm the only one that wants to go down this path that I think has the most evidence to go down of anything. Let me know your thoughts if you agree or disagree with me in the comments below. Oh, and by the way, please like and subscribe to this channel. Post your comments, your thoughts, your criticisms. Till next time, Pavarotti's out.